All right, what do we got next?
All right, so we are talking about the Pitchfork article, which was the infamous now article, I guess, at this point, which got Chief Keef jailed.
Wow.
Got Chief Keef jailed, essentially, because they had him interviewed at a gun range, which violated his parole. Huffington Post, special to Huffington Post, Chaos, which is a familiar name around Toronto. If you don't know him, what's a common song people might know from him?
Crabs in the Bucket was a famous
Crabs
one.
in the Bucket, Natalie Portman song.
Yeah.
He's had some decent hits. If you haven't heard his stuff, check him out. He wrote an article for Huffington Post as a special, which was awfully written. Mind you, we're not advocating for that, but he in essence brought up the point is that do these magazines like Spin, like Pitchfork, choose these violent black characters and put them in the most violent situations in a form of racism to further white people's belief that what black men are scary. So is it is this just them perpetuating racist ideals almost on purpose?
See, now my first reaction to this article is I had no time for this because it's just written in like a port form and I don't know why an editor wasn't involved. So I was immediately dismissive, and it took like a lot of effort and some other people talking about it for me to go back and like, okay, let me see. Maybe there's a little bit of an argument within this existentialist rant. So he's essentially saying is that really publications like Pitchfork are just they're putting people in the place just to sort of for the oh wow moment of like, look what we're doing, ha ha ha. And I think there's some relevance to that.
No,
like,
I thought that he said it almost as if they're purposefully doing this in order to further their racist beliefs and or to purposely jail these people, as if Pitchfork set out. He kept saying, why would they do this? Why would they do this? Almost as if it's some kind of grand conspiracy to jail Chief Keef.
I think it's in the same line of journalistic thinking as like a Vice magazine type feature where like, let's do something extreme. Like this kid has gun issues. Let's take him to a gun range. Is it purposely designed to be racist in nature? I don't think so, but something doesn't have to be designed to be racist to be racist. I think Pitchfork is just such a well-revered music publication that they seem to have latched on to this, I don't know, whatever, for lack of a better term, ignorant young kid angle of hip-hop for like the hipster ironic reasons, like an ironic mustache. And now we're starting to see the problems with that. If you're sort of just latching onto a culture for this, just for the fucking joke of it, really, that's what you're doing. And there's real-world ramifications to that, and this is an issue of that. And I don't think this was something that should have been taken as lightly as it was.
I think that it was advertly racist. I think it was open mouth racist. I think that the racism comes in the fact that they're almost doing this in the voyeuristic look where we're going. Like it's almost as if we're traveling into the depths of the Sahara Desert to see this rare, poisonous snake in its natural habitat. Look how it bites. Like you're doing it almost like, oh, good on us for, hanging with the really scary black men. So you're perpetuating them in this violent, scary way. It's the same way that they'll starve an animal for months before they put it on camera for this great attack moment. So you're doing it on purpose in order to portray them as vicious and as scary to make yourself look cool or brave or interesting. And that is racist.
It's definitely otherness. Yeah, there's like the whole approach, whether or not they would call it racist or not, it seems to be like it is. But I think they could agree that it's otherness, and there's problems that arise from that. What I sort of wondered though is like, let's expand this a little bit. Did anyone ever take Big Pun to like a fast food establishment for an interview? Like, is that like,
exactly? Right?
Like, I don't know, but I definitely think there's problems with.
Do you take Justin Bieber to a pot house for an interview? Like, would you do that? Right? Like, so you're sort of playing off that person's vice in order to show them in a light that is going to help to sell your magazine to people who are like you, who are going to maybe enjoy seeing somebody in that sort of natural habitat, which is probably an unfortunate part of being or growing up where this person grew up. It isn't something that they're necessarily proud of. It's a product of their environment that they should be wanting to move away from as they become more successful and worldly. But yet still you want to keep associating them with that because that's what keeps them interesting in your eyes.
Definitely. I think it's very much like we were talking about last week in terms of the Megan Fox issue. If you're doing a feature on someone, you should really try to expose more than the surface of it. And this issue with Chief Keef was obviously just scratching the surface, and that got him in trouble.
I got to ask, just because the question is out there, do we have time for that? Because I want to know what you think, because Chaos's point was that white men, period, who didn't grow up from the hood should not write about black men from the hood.
I definitely think white men should be able to write about hip hop. I think Chaos was just being a little extreme at that point. I don't even think he really believes that. I think he sees problems with the way some white men write about hip hop, and as we all see here. But at this point, there's no one specific demographic that is grown up with hip hop and has a right to write about it more than the other group. That's ridiculous. I think one of the fundamental problems with like racism in its current form is this notion that because I am not of that, I can't add to that conversation. I'm definitely entering that conversation with a little bit more ignorance, but that ignorance can only be solved by having that conversation. And the way to solve that is to sometimes put your foot in your mouth and make missteps, but that's how you learn, right? And those of us who have probably followed those missteps and learned a bit of it, I think are in a good position to push the question a little bit further.
Here's a question for you. Do white journalists hog technology?
Does Pitchfork have a race problem, or does chaos just have a sentence structure problem?
And stay tuned for a recent study that proves once and for all that pot, although natural, is in fact awful. Yeah, baby, yeah!
Here we are,
Woo!
episode number 27 of The Sum Up, February 10th, 2013. I am Michael J. Warren.
And I am Shannon T. Boudram. You went first this time.
I did.
Threw me off.
Threw
me off. We got an hour of controversial and conversational net finds.